Okay, so there we go. So what I did is I put most of his face inside the actual wing. And I used a soapstone pencil for drawing on the dark, and then a graphite pencil for drawing on the light. Charcoal would actually be better to draw on this because it comes away much easier, but I won't be able to get fine lines. Alright, so now what I'm going to do basically is I'm going to paint the white areas and gray in the face. And I may not need the alizarin crimson. I may vintage up the edges with that. And just take a little bit of black. And I'm only putting tiny, tiny, tiny amounts on here because I don't want to put any medium in the paint. I want them to be as pure as possible. So now it's just a matter of going in with the different values. So working with the whites and the grays and stuff like that. Let's see if I can go over here a little bit. And to make this really abstract, I am going to paint the face primarily white. And then when you're painting white over black, you're going to see a little bit of a, when it dries, you're going to see a little bit of the black underneath. And depending if that's all right, then I'm going to leave that. So as I'm painting, I'm going just slightly over the soapstone pencil, and it'll be invisible. You just sharpen it with a regular pencil sharpener. And I'm just going to switch to a filbert brush. That might be a little bit large, but you get it done a little bit faster. You want to work with the biggest brush possible. Okay, I'm going to paint all the areas of his face white, and then I can come in and put the values in after. And so you can do this with any picture. There's some free photo editors out there. One's called paint.net. It's free. It's supposed to be like a Photoshop substitute. It's not really. It's there's a lot of stuff that it doesn't do, but for the average person, it's pretty good. Then there's Picasa. I've heard about Picasa, and I'm a Photoshop user. The Adobe Creative Suite is what Joe and I use, so I don't have a lot of experience with anything else, but I use Photoshop and Fireworks a lot. And I'm just looking at my photograph as I'm doing this. Now the photograph for this you can find on the internet. It's available in public domain. If you wanted to do this one, he's going to look funny till I actually get the details in there. And this is going to be gray right in here. But see, as the paint starts to, if the water evaporates, it shows a little bit more. His collar. Now this is going to need a couple of coats of paint. This is his collar, which is white. And when that dries, I may see the edge of the raven here. If so, it's no big deal. And I'm going to be having a workshop. Well, not really a workshop. It's just, this is the Dark Side of Vintage project. You can get a lot of information. You can get all the information actually on creativeartjournaling.com and my blog at ArtPlace.ca. But I'm also going to have these little technique things. And one of the ones that I basically work with people who want to be able to draw and paint people, but do not have any interest whatsoever in learning how to actually draw and paint them. So I'm going to have a little workshop on that, which will be really, really cool to show people how they can paint a person without even having to draw them. cool. Now this filbert has a really good chisel edge, which is why I'm able to get these nice straight lines. So if I were to use this brush every day for about a month, I would end up losing this chisel edge. Okay, I think I need to bring this down a little bit. I'm going to switch to a round brush soon. Switching to a round brush now. That's the collar. You get much finer points with this. This is dry, so let's see what happens with a second coat. You can actually create a skin tone for this if you want. I don't. I want it black and white. Now, if you didn't want to paint it black and white, any color plus white, you have a really nice monochrome look to it. But if you want to pop this image into a graphics program, what you want to look at is reducing the number of layers of color. First convert it to black and white, and then see if you can strip out layers or simplify the edges or something like that. Boy, he looks funny. Now I'm going to have to wet my brush a little bit. I'm using the paint far too thickly. It's best to have many even layers instead of a thick layer. Unless you're looking at painting texture. Now this is way too thin. That's way too thin. There we go. I'm just getting the stark white areas in first. Okay. This is gray here. All right, this is a good start. Now I'm going to pick up a speck of black. Now Traditions actually has gray tone sets, which are really nice paints to work with. And I'm still working with the same values here. This is, or sorry, a new value now. This is just the gray. And this is going all the way almost to where the collar comes in, right about here. And it comes in, where's his hair? Right here. This is just different values. I have to put some more white in there. Okay. This will take a couple of layers to kind of finesse it. Yeah, a bit more black. Still going to be gray. And this is actually, all I'm doing is I'm just looking at the photograph. That's all I'm doing. I'm not even going to attempt that. Smaller brush. With a smaller brush, sometimes it's easier just painting over the whole iris and then putting it in, or sorry, the whole pupil, and then putting it in after. Because the area is so small. So that's why if I go over the pupil, I don't care. Where's his eyeball? Okay. Bring this up a bit. This is going to be black. No, I'm actually having trouble seeing. Sometimes I actually have to get really, really close. Take my glasses off and get really, really close to see. His eye is majorly crooked. Let's get some gray in there. Oops. He's lost his face. This is actually white. All in here. There is no dark line. This is all white. So I'm going to have to clean this up because the tones now, there's some tones showing. As well, this is all white here. It comes straight down. This is all white. This is all white. It's turning gray. So I'm going to have to come in with a couple of layers to get the good white coverage on this. And I'm possibly going to have to... I may have to come in with the eyes with colored pencil. I don't know if I can see that close. It's just my eyes, that's all. It's a tiny brush, but the brushes can only hold so much paint. This is all white. Let's see if we can get that again. I'm going around the area now, seeing if I can get the paint to... If you put too much paint on a little brush, it gets really, 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 really washy. His eye is not even close to being big enough. Not even close. This here, let me get some black paint. This should be the whole thing right here. There we go. It should be that size, and this should be this size. And I'm going to let that dry, then I'll come in with the gray. So I'm thinking, this is going to take probably about 4 or 5 layers just to cover it up. Now I could have blocked it out. I could have, but faces is something I just like to paint. And the more layers you paint on the faces, if you get your values right, the better it looks. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to keep going here, and you can fast forward or you can stick with me on this. I'm just going to bring that down just a little bit more. One of the challenging things for me is to draw or paint an imperfect face. I always find that my training comes into place when I'm trying to do a perfect face. And this is a really good piece as a challenge piece because there is absolutely no detail. I think I would do things differently now with the way that I'm blocking in the white. I think I would have drawn it out first, then put some masking film over the area to protect to leave it to white. Because this is taking far too long for me. This guy always reminds me of Charlie Chaplin. And if you have good brushes, you'll be able to get some really, really good detail. It's getting there, right? I am going to have to let this part dry, then what I'll do is I'll probably work on something else. These brushes are a little soft for what I'm doing. I'm not getting the amount of pressure that I want to get. Actually, I'll just paint the rest of this stuff black. Okay, so his ear comes down, the neck comes down, so this comes down here, like so. So you can see why this video just is not going to be a half-hour video. I mean, if you can paint this guy in a half an hour, all the power to you. I just don't like rushing through art. I just enjoy the process so much. Now, that's not to say doing stuff fast doesn't work. Many times I put challenges out there, even to myself, especially on a daily basis, to do a 30-second sketch. I pick an object and I have to draw it in 30 seconds. It helps you hone in and only draw what you see and paint what you see. Okay, let me just get a rough this in here. All right. And now I'm just going to paint the black. The black is going to fade right out. And I'm thinking now, you know what? I'm thinking that I'm going to put the black against the white, but I don't want to lose the raven. So, no, actually he's in front of the raven, so it doesn't matter. The raven's in the back, so it doesn't matter. We're going to lose the raven's tail. Ah, darn. How much time I spent on that tail? The other thing we can do, I really want to ponder this, because let's see what I can do with this. If I can get some rough modeling so it'll look like a almost like a velour shirt. I don't know if that makes any sense. Or velour jacket, like a black velour jacket. And if this doesn't work, then it's no big great loss. I'll just paint it black again. There's a little bit of texture in there. Yeah, I'm not thrilled with it. Not thrilled with it, so I'll just go back and just... And my hand keeps moving. I've got this photograph on display on my computer just to make it easier to look at. All that work spent on this stupid tail. And everything from here on is just faded right out. I'm going to wait for the face to be completely dry before I do any more, and I'm going to work with a different brush. Now this part here, I'll bring that down like that. Oh, there's let's see, it comes down here. Just picturing, because the jacket's open, then let me just quickly just get something in here. Probably right about here. Wasn't paying attention to that part. And I'm going to do a little bit of rubbing here. I want to have some of that purple underneath showing. And rinse, rinse, rinse. And more white. Yeah, so if I had to do this again, I would mask the area out first. I forgot about this part. Gesso is something that you can use as well. That I learned from Jerry Arnell. He uses on his TV shows, he was using gesso instead of tube titanium white. Depends on where you buy it from. Sometimes it's really thin and chintzy. There's a particular brand that I can't stand. It's a no-name brand it's an art store no-name brand, and I absolutely hate it. And I told the store they should be embarrassed that they put this stuff out. The gessos, my favorite gessos are the Permelba white gesso and the DecoArt gesso. Okay, that'll take another coat. I'm just going to get a little, when this part here will dry, it'll be gray. And now, I don't know if I'll be able to do it with this brush here. It might be a little too soft. Yeah, I think I'm just going to have to wipe out a little bit more paint. These brushes are really soft. What I want to do now is I want to come in here with just a little bit of detail with the gray. Like I said, this brush is is a little too soft for doing this. I'm more than likely going to end up ruining the brush. Let me just go to something else. I'm going to go to my stash of old soft grip brushes. These ones here are damaged in one way or another, but I do use them for other things. This is a highlight here. Okay. And that's soft there. Just kind of around the form. Okay, just to show that it's just not solid. Just keep it really light. You can always add more paint if necessary. Where are we? Okay. Oh, that's still tacky. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brush here in with the black, and now what I want to do is I want to fade this out. This will be solid right here. What I want to do is I want to mask this off. Actually, I don't think it really matters if I mask it off or not. I haven't given much thought as to how I'm going to put the poem in there. I definitely won't be handwriting it because my writing is absolutely awful. Okay, now I'll pick up a little bit of white. And I'll come in here. A little bit more black, and what I'm looking at is kind of on an angle. Okay, more white, more white, more white. Now we take a mop brush and we just soften that edge. Now I know I'm in the way. And just circles and little squares. And just paper towel and just kind of lightly rough it up just to create a little bit of texture. There we go. Now I have to come in and finish that edge off. This would be like a background. That's all right. And I'm going to grab another paper towel. A little bit of water, not too much. And now I'm just kind of thinning out this area right here. To allow more of the background to show through. Oopsie. My God, Giselle. My brain was asleep there. My brain was asleep there. There we go. So I should have left the tape on. That's because I can be a doorknob sometimes. I don't pay attention. The corner is not quite dark enough for me, so I'm going to come in a little bit more dark. This is what I was kind of telling you about in the beginning, about just kind of fading the stuff in. There we go. Come in with a little bit of white. When you do the white though, you got to be careful with what color you end up creating, or what tone. I'm immediately going to go back over that with black now. There. It just kind of fades out there. Now I could do the same thing here. I'm not going to do too much because I want to do this with a dry brush, but you can also do a little bit here, and all you're doing is just adding a little bit of texture into the background so it's not such a solid piece. Okay, but I want to do that with a brush to show you two different ways. All right, so that's all right. Okay, I'm going to take a minute, I'm going to clean all this stuff up, and then I'm going to apply another layer of white to the face, and then we'll go from there. So I've added a few more layers of white. Now I'm just kind of going over where the hair area is. This is extremely dark gray. It's almost black. I just want to get it to be just a little bit of a noticeable. Just a little bit. Okay, you can see where I painted that. It'll be almost invisible, but I'm kind of scrubbing it in to get some texture. Same with the face. Look at the texture on the face. I don't know if you can, let's see if I can get a right angle. There we go. Lots of texture. I love texture in pieces. So this is pretty abstract. I really love this. Now I'm looking at my screen, my monitor in front, and this looks really white, but I think it's the glare from the light, because see how that's kind of gray there? That's closer to what it is. It's not, this is not white, it's kind of gray. Kind of gray, kind of gray, kind of gray, more gray. And just put a little bit of texture in here. Love texture in fabric. So that's all I did. Now, and I ended up with 4 coats of white. 4 coats of white. So if I had to do this next time, and I probably will, oh, and see how I made a mess there? I just carved that out. That's fine, because it just leaves more texture in the fabric. I would mask out the areas that are white, but the problem with that is that you're going to get perfect lines. So I don't know if that's such a good thing being next time, or... So just putting in some texture. I'm liking what I did here. The only thing that's missing is the highlight in the eye, but my brush isn't perfectly round. Can I do it? Yep, there we go. All right, now on this side I splashed some white on here. I don't think I'm going to worry about it too much because I actually want to put a poem here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the internet, I'm going to find a poem, and I'm going to see if I can print it on vellum, and then the vellum I'll actually put here. There's only there's a problem with that, and then it comes down to copyright. Now there is a copyright of 75 years, and if you're never sure whether or not you're allowed to take something, err on the side of caution, and no. But anytime you look for something, look it up in public domain Morguefile, morguefile.com. If you want to look for fonts, go to places like freefonts.com or fontstyle.com. Look it up, free fonts. And there's always licenses on that, what you can do with it. For old images and that, 75 years is the standard number. It varies upon country, so always check into it. But if you find a nice poem, depending on what image you use as well, on vellum might be nice here. I don't know if I'll be able to handwrite it, or I can actually just handwrite some sayings myself. So this will be for text. So I'm not going to worry too much about this, but I do want to use this opportunity to show you that that dry brush technique for doing the edges. You need a dry bristle brush, and I'm not going to have a dry bristle brush, so we're going to wing it. And it's the same as before. You load it, wipe it out, you load it, and you're removing the excess. And if you see streaks like this, that's because the brush is wet. There's too much either paint, and there's not, I know it's not paint, so the brush is still wet. And you just circle, 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 circle. Okay, like that. That's all there is to it. Now this distressed look, I'm actually not minding it. Where some of the streaks are coming in, because it looks like it's continuing on with this. So you know what? I'm going to keep going. See, I let the piece decide what it's going to look like. What I set out to do isn't necessarily what it's going to end up looking like. I'd have to put some more black on there. And now I'm thinking, and I always have a problem with this, writing something by hand with a white gel pen. But if I keep this area lighter, I won't have to use a gel pen. I can use a black pen. Okay, there we go. Because this has paint on it already, the paper's fine. If you were doing this on raw paper, the paper may start to give the fibers might start to lift up, and that's just because you're basically, think of it like you're sanding the top edge of the paper. Let's do this part here. See? Isn't that beautiful? And I can also take this opportunity to fix up the creases. See, that's how wet it is. But you can't see too much of it. Once it dries, it'll be almost invisible. That's why it's important not to have ridges of paint. Ridges of paint is that. That's a ridge of paint. You don't want that. You got to get rid of that. I'll just fade this out here. Because if you have a ridge of paint, it's going to dry with that ridge on there. What would be kind of cool is this tree, an old tree coming out here. Now I'm having to do this because I splattered white paint. I wasn't being careful. But you know what this is looking like? This is looking at like background trees. I'm going to keep going. This is looking like background trees. There's a big tall pine tree. What am I going to do here? I know what I'd like to do here. Paint the moon. Which is not at all what I started out to do, but you know what? I think it's what I'm going to end up doing, because that would look really cool. Because the piece by itself is fine this way. But I think the moon would look amazing there. Keep that airy. Yeah, it just looks like trees. Let me just put a little bit more here. Let me bring this up here. I'm going to let that dry before I Do the moon. I'm going to bring this up here. Now I'm making everything more consistent now. Nothing at the top. Nothing's going to happen at the top. Okay. Yeah, liking that. I want to try to keep the black close to his jacket. Waistcoat or whatever they called it. Now all this paint here, any paint that comes on here, I can scrub it. This is the one I did with the multi-surface satin. And it turned out really, really nice. Now, let's see what I can do. I'm asking for trouble here. What color am I looking at? I'm judging. I'm judging. I need a circle. I need a circle. I don't like drawing. I don't like painting circles freehand. I'm really bad at it. Okay, let's try this. I'm going to do it with gray. Now let's go right to white. Why not? Why not? Let's cheat. See, I can't even draw a circle properly. You know what I may end up doing? Just getting a piece of paper, sticking it. Ideally what I do is, and I do this in oils all the time, is I'll take this and I'll go around like this. And it goes round and round. But in oils it's so much easier. The acrylics are sticky. You know how I learned to do the moon? Finger in the paint. That's how I actually learned to do it. That I learned from Bob Ross. That's how I learned to do it. But, see what happens? You don't get a perfect moon. Perfect circle. That's got gray paint in it. And just a matter now, just going round and round. And while I'm doing this, I'm contemplating what I'm going to put here now. Now that I was going to put a poem there, now I'm not going to put a poem, I may just put a saying. Okay, I have to turn this around. You might not be able to see what I'm doing. I may actually just put a saying. Or some words. Oh, duh, the raven. That's what I should put. Just put that, the raven. Because that's what this whole page is based on. Come on, one more. 1, 2, 3, 1. I'm trying to not hold the page so you can't see, but you know what? I'm going to have to clean those paints up so I can turn the piece around. There we go. So don't do your moon the way I did. You know what? I'm thinking, I'm so stupid. I have stencils that do this. Oh, I'm such an idiot. I have stencils that do this. Okay. Get this out of the way. Bonehead. I'm such a bonehead. Ha 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 ha. Beautiful. Looking at this, I need to do those edges at the top. It's got to be done. Now, is there another technique that I can show you? Let me think. Is there something else that I can show you? Yes. Let me go get something. I'm going to show you another technique for vintaging your edges. My thingy here. I use this for circles all the time. It's gonna be a perfect. It's not, well, not to say it's not going to be a perfect circle. I may have, because it's not staying to the bottom perfectly well. So if I go from the outside, let's get a different brush. I'm taking a bit of a chance with this one. I'm going from the outside in. This is so wrinkled, this stencil. This is a homemade stencil. Oh, some paint went through. Some paint went through. Paper towel, paper towel, paper towel. Enu. I think I've had enough for today. I'm so tired. There we go. It's not a perfect circle, but we can work within that. There we go. So this is not the typical session for when I create a piece of, whether it's a piece of art, for journaling, whatever. This here, I've come up with so many different ideas. Yeah, that's a smart thing to do while you're painting black and white. I came up with so many ideas with this, and I could be here for another 3 or 4 hours. Because I get these ideas, and you know what? If that happens to you, let it happen. Don't force yourself to finish something, within a half an hour because, Mary Jane down the street can journal in a half an hour or create an art piece in a half an hour. Don't do it that way. Let your art tell you when it's finished. This here, see this line? That's a hair. That's a hair. Am I going to let that bother me? Nope. I'm going to leave it. Cosmetic sponge. Same tappy, 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 tappy. And you want to remove as much as possible. And same thing. Work from the edges in. If you work this way, you're going to get a hard line like I got there. And keep it soft. Here I want to get that nice and black. To get something, a really black edge, you're going to do this. Okay. And then these cosmetic sponges, what I'll end up doing with them is letting them dry. And then I can use them for mono printing. Because they'll be hard, I can make blocks. Oops. This page is bent here. I'm not getting an even blend, but that's okay. I don't worry about this stuff. I love stuff that shows texture, it shows action. This is my fingerprints that are here. That would be kind of neat to do as a DNA piece. Just there we go. Now it's an original. Maybe in the moon it might be better. I swear I hear puppy dog, but she's not here. Now I can easily skip over this, but I want to show this, especially to the beginners, so they can see how far you can take this. Less is better though, because you can't really remove it easily. You can also do this with white. You really want to make that a glow around here. You can do that as well, but I'm at the point now where I'm done this. That's an actual pencil mark that's there. Let's see if I can remove it. No, because it's under paint. Well, what do I do with it? Not worry about it. That's what I do with it. There. Work it into the design. I don't let stuff like this bother me anymore. I used to. Oh my God, I used to be so uptight about creating some, even if it was just my own play pieces. Now I just enjoy the process. I am more enjoying having fun learning what these products can do together, because I like breaking the rules with them. Like this piece here I did with the multi-surface satins. What I intended to do with the piece is not at all what I did with the piece. But what I came out with was more than I could ever have expected. I just absolutely love what I was able to do with those paints. But see this, how the difference look at the finish. Okay, how flat that is, how shiny it is. That's with the decoupage matte. That's the matte finish there. Look at that. Okay, and look at this. So there's the difference on the finish. This looks more like velvet. That's very, very shiny. I can take the sponge as well, and it can also come in and just do the edges a little bit here as well. What it'll do, this will make everything cohesive, because I've got black all the way around the edges. So let's just put a little bit here. And I don't want to lose too much here, but there we go. So now we got black going all the way around. So there we are. Well, I'm not touching it. We'll leave it at that. Talk about not paying attention. I think my left brain, my logic side, telling me what to do, to be conscious, to be aware of what I'm doing. The left brain is asleep. My right brain, my creative side, is just going all over the place. But you know what? I wish I would have done it that way. I like that. I don't like that anymore. I like that. I like that. Can I do something there? See if I can lighten that up a little bit. Ooh, I see a middle circle there. I see a middle circle there. I want to actually go back now. I want to leave that there, and I want to put a poem. I want to put a poem there now. To replicate that color, remember it was the purple? Purple, black, and white. I can guarantee we are not going to match the color perfectly. You can't. Not when you're color mixing. It's not going to happen. Let's get some more white. I'm having so much fun here. It's a good thing this isn't the class. I would end up doing this like forever. Remembering acrylics, they dry darker. So remember I was saying how you could take this technique and do that around here? So basically that's what I'm going to be doing. But I'm going to get this started. Then I'm going to take the black and go back over so it looks more natural. Remember, this is an independent piece from this. Well, it's supposed to be anyways. Didn't quite end up that way. To make it really independent, I can add a little bit more purple. But if I want to print those words and I put that sheet of vellum, that might be what I end up doing. See, I love that. That's what the world looks like from outer space. How amazing is that? And wouldn't you know it, closing it, it's pointing right at the raven. I wouldn't be able to do that again if I wanted to. So I'm just going to put that in here now. Did I paint on the other side? Oh no, I just vintaged up the edges. Let's soften that. Let's soften that. I want to try to get... Maybe a white card. No, I don't want to. I don't want it to be see-through. Okay. Do as I say, not as I do. Wash your hands if you're working on something that's totally dependent on being black and white, because when you get lines in there, it totally makes a mess. Because I know what's going to happen. As soon as I walk away from this, I'm going to lose my muse is going to disappear. So because I added 2 extra colors in there, or I kind of redid this part, now I kind of have to redo the outside edge and then come back in. A little bit more purple. I want some more purple. Does that look purple to you? Not to me. Should you be using my mop brush for this, but they're all wet now. But not everybody has a mop brush. You can do the same thing with a paper towel. There we are. I am not sure what I'm going to do there. I may just put the words, the raven, maybe this way. I don't know. I probably should put the word the raven. What I do know is I'm going to let this dry before I do anything with it. A poem, not sure. But anyways, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want with it. But again, if you're going to use a poem, if you're doing this and you want to use a poem from Edgar Allan Poe, unless it's specifically written, the copyright is 75 years. Again, depending on the country that it was. Do you need to look that up? If the country it was published in, or the written in, or where the author was born. I'm not quite sure on that. But anything in the public domain, you're pretty well okay. And morgue file, that people when they sign up to that account to upload pictures, you have to agree that you understand that people will be downloading your pictures, and they don't even have to give you credit for the copyright. So it's a picture sharing place. I get a lot of my images from there, and the pictures are just they're so beautiful, and there's a lot of random stuff happening. There we go. I lost my tree. Let's put it back in there. There we are. There's my tree. Okay, so that's it. I'm finished, and I'm finished because I'm running out of space on my card for my camera. Let me just do a little bit of precaution stuff here. I had fun doing this. I actually had more fun with the experimentation on what I could do than the actual design, but look at that. So you can't even tell that there was a moon here. And this is still wet. I don't know if you can see the glare. I don't know if you can see the glare on the face. It's still really, really wet. So we have, so when the page is, that's the back side. So the journal will be like this. And you'll flip the page and you'll go to that. So there we go. Yeah, so I'm going to let this dry, and then I'll put by the time this is dry, I'm going to give this piece here, I'm going to get about a good half hour to an hour for this stuff to dry. I'll clean up, and then I'm going to really ponder what I'm going to do here, and when we come back, I'll show you what I've decided.